Hi everyone. First I want to say thank you so much for your support. The State Board of Pharmacy did send me the true denial letter. It was definitely much better than the first one, even though it was a denial. They are refusing to pursue the complaint any further, and I'll give you the reasons why here in a moment. But the good news is they do promise a full discussion on the issue of mail order pharmacy and temperatures. I know to many that may seem like a devastation. It may seem like a failure. But for me, I just want to share with you one of my most important memories that helped me through my hardest times and still motivates me today. The morning of Wesley's transplant, I looked at the transplant surgeon and I felt like Wesley's life was literally beginning to leave this earth. And I looked at the transplant surgeon and I just frantically asked, are we going to make it? And her response will forever live on inside of me. She said, we will never make it if we don't try. And try with everything I have to get this common sense issue changed is what I will do. For those just joining us, in the past, Wesley was on liquid medications. They delivered his medications in 102-degree heat. A heat index that day was 115. They delivered it in only a bubble mailer, and afterwards Wesley went into transplant rejection. I vowed to never again use mail order unless it was proven safe. I wanted to let you know right around the same time that I filed the complaint with the State Board of Pharmacy, I connected with a UPS petitioner. I wanted to know exactly how hot the back of the trucks were getting. I connected with a petitioner with over 400,000 supporters for the UPS to air condition her vehicles. I was heartbroken after I found out that her husband went into renal failure from the high temperatures that the back of the trucks reach, which is up to 170 degrees. I cried. I felt betrayed. How could we not be warned that my child's medications were being shipped in such conditions? I wouldn't put my son's life-saving medications in these conditions for a second. Why try to force us to risk the potency of medications by only allowing us this coverage of mail order pharmacy to get our medications? So the bad news, the State Board of Pharmacy is no longer pursuing the complaint. Why? So they state that an override was granted, but please keep in mind this was only after months. And they only budged because reporter Mike Colombo from Fox 2 News in St. Louis reported on the issue. Prior to this, my son's doctor wrote an appeal for us to pick up the medications the safest way, and that was denied. I made 30 to 40 calls. None of that was going anywhere. I begged the mail order pharmacy to let me drive 4 hours to pick up the medications at the nearest mail order location, and that was denied. They did offer to ship it to the local retail location, but when I asked if it would be shipped on the same non-temperature controlled truck that delivers it to my house, they said yes. I said no. I could have just dropped the complaint after the override, but obviously by this time I had already connected with several people with similar issues that didn't have access to media, that were going through the same process, same cycle, and couldn't get through to anyone who would listen.
So that's an agreement, ma'am. That should be good.
You said 59 to 86.
Yes,
The manufacturer did tell me, and
okay, great.
on an ice pack, and he said that even with an ice pack you have to watch because you don't want it to get too cold either. And that's why my concerns are about it getting too cold. Like if
We
maybe
normally kind of wrap it in like bubble wrap, and we protect the medication, ma'am. But if you do find that you have a family, friend, relative who wants to drive to get it, it is about 270 miles door to door, probably. I mean, you're welcome to do that, and it can be picked up at our pharmacy window. But I think we can get it there in good shape next spring if we just look at the concerns, ma'am.
I want to believe that so bad. I really do. It's,
All right.
it's
Well,
it's,
I'm going to wish the best for your little guy and have a great birthday party tomorrow, okay?
yeah, one more quick question. So with the packaging, you said usually you would just wrap it in a bubble mailer
Well,
in
we
the
try to
freezing,
protect it, yeah.
but I can hope that the bubble mailer will
We
be
put like
protected.
with the cool packs, with the ice packs, we put like some buffer, like some kind of, they're like gel packs, so that, you don't want to freeze it. You just want to keep it kind of cool in that.
Are you talking about like the air packs? Because I mean, we got like the air pack in them, but we didn't have gel in it. It was just air.
Well, we try our best, ma'am.
All right.
I just tried to answer your questions. I wish your son all the best, and you've gotten great care there, Cardinal Lennon. Okay.
Well, I need to know, like, so if
Ma'am, I have to go, ma'am. I think I've answered your questions. Was there anything else?
yeah, there is, but you're not answering it because you're rushing off the phone.
I tried my best. What was your last question, please?
So you said with that medication that, so that's considered a room temperature medication that would usually go out in a bubble mailer, along with children's medications, right? Also get shipped out like that, like the.
So supposedly, even though there's no additional information showing that this medication is safe, even per finally the Millwater Pharmacy after so many calls, the State Board of Pharmacy said that there wasn't enough evidence. Keep in mind, it was about 90 degrees that day. The inside of the trucks were much hotter than 100 degrees, and that's after talking to many UPS drivers to confirm. Additionally, the manufacturer suggests to throw away any medications, these medications, if they freeze or if they exceed temperatures of 86 degrees. I could see a couple of degrees off, but knowing that these trucks are hot and enclosed, and just like our cars sitting in the hot sun that are extremely hot, you know how you walk into the car and it almost takes your breath away. That's what the UPS drivers say it does when they walk in the back of the area, in the back of their trucks. It literally takes their breath away. And then additionally, after speaking to several pharmacists, even if additional stability data is available for some medications, it's important to know that using this data could mean that there's an earlier expiration date. So then basically the expiration date on the bottle may not be accurate. So they say that there's lack of evidence, but why? It's because no one is truly monitoring the temperature of the inside of the back of the hot trucks. There isn't a sensor on the plastic bags or the bubble mailers that would warn us if our child's medications have been compromised or if our medications have been compromised. The bad news, again, the lack of evidence. So no one is adhering to the manufacturer's proven safe guidelines. This is going to be certain to put our state, as well as taxpayers' dollars, at liability. Governors across our nation, including Governor Mike Parson, needs to be aware of this liability, as he is responsible for the appointments of the State Board of Pharmacy members. And some of the State Board of Pharmacy members actually come from companies that benefit from mail-order pharmacy. Also, in addition to the manufacturer has a great liability if these medications are allowed to ship outside of their proven safe guidelines for even undefined short durations without additional testing to cover each unique trip. Think about how each unique trip is to the patient. We have some medications that sit in hot and freezing mailboxes, packages left in the hot sun or below freezing on doorsteps. If the manufacturers don't take a stand on this issue and say that the mail order pharmacy needs to abide by our proven safe guidelines, then they too are making themselves a liability. They could also just do additional testing on each medication and then apply that to the manufacturer's label, but each medication needs to be specific. I don't want to see blanket regulations that say it's okay in short durations, because each medication is so unique in its stability. So the State Board of Pharmacy will have a discussion about the current law. The good thing is right now, the current law looks strict by saying that the medications must be kept within the manufacturer's guidelines or USP's guidelines. We know from written response from USP Pharmacopeia that they recommend that the mail order pharmacy go by the manufacturer's excursion guidelines. On my son's bottle, that was 59 to 86 degrees. They also said this applies during shipping, but unfortunately the State Board of Pharmacy is reading the law to include any temperatures outside of 59 to 86 degree range that they believe that the medication may be tested. For most drugs, they are not tested beyond these temperature ranges, and especially not in the extreme temperature ranges. This is very true for generic drugs. The State Board of Pharmacy may even try to go off of a similar drugs data, even though there are different additives. Structurally, the medication may not be exactly the same, although it's supposed to be similar. I would argue that without the evidence to prove, I don't want to have to be forced to give that medication to my son outside of the proven safe guidelines. Again, in my research, the pharmacists warn against storing medications outside of the temperatures because medications can not only lose potency, but also have a lower shelf life or an earlier expiration date. I'm begging manufacturers, please, please, please stand up for your patients. Please stand up and say, these are the guidelines that the mail order pharmacy needs to follow. Put those on the label and fight for us patients to ensure that they abide by those guidelines. The State Board of Pharmacy will have discussions about the current law. Patients can, I want them to keep in mind that patients cannot have the loose language saying that all room temperature medications, including children's liquid medications, are safe for even undefined short durations, as each medication is unique. Medications must have limits, and a way that must alarm us if the medications reach temperatures that are no longer safe to take. It would also be helpful if UPS, FedEx, and USPS would provide temperature control in their trucks. We need specific guidelines from the manufacturer that the mail order pharmacy must abide by, and the state boards of pharmacy must enforce these regulations and manufacturers' preferred guidelines. For all the State Board of Pharmacies that are following this, you are next. People are sharing their concerns and experiences by state, and they are beginning to organize to change the law. Please share your words of support, your issues or concerns. You can email me at stopmandatorymailorder@yahoo.com. Remember to include your state so I can send this to the State Board of Pharmacy, and also if you're willing to speak to regulators, let me know. You can also find me on Facebook on the Issues with Mail Order Pharmacy page at Just a Mom Who Loves Her Son, and then Twitter at Bozing Loretta. Thank you so much, guys. Together we are going to get this common sense issue fixed.